in the, what did Jody tell me the other day? They're now called the essential skills. They're not called soft skills anymore. So I bring those in every day in class. They do not get out of a class with me that they are not practicing something that has to do with them emotionally and not just a textbook stuff. So, because I don't want to get them when I hire them without having that stuff ready to go. I want that package ready. And if they're not, I tell them, you've got to get out there and do an internship. If you don't do one, you're sunk because no one's hiring you. I mean, I'm super honest with them. I give them a lot of feedback and have really close connections with my students. I don't know. I hope that helps your question.
So, I keep thinking about Daniel Pink's book, A Whole New Mind.
Right.
Anybody remember that from the 1990s? He said something rather prophetic. The MFA would be the new MBA.
Right.
Linear and algorithmic thinking would become a commodity, and that holistic thinking, critical thinking, yes, you know, the epistemological thinking about your thinking, that would become a prized, valuable asset to anyone's arsenal. It's becoming incredibly true. We, in fact, are living and breathing that right now. We're seeing it. I've been thinking about it the whole night as we've been talking.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say is I had a friend who she was at a seminar this week, and she gave me kind of like, here's what I got out of the seminar. One of the phrases she used to use Jody's language was, soft skills are now called durable skills.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting frame because it was like they persist no matter what the technology, right? I just thought that struck me as whatever language we use, right? They're not soft, but I just thought it was an interesting frame.
We practiced eye contact the other day, like really with college students, and they don't make eye contact. Just like when you see me in the hall, you need to look at me, okay? You need to look in my eyes, say hello, Leslie, I don't care what you call me, but do something. And they don't do it.
Nope.
Like they just don't even know how to do that. So we practiced in class. We practiced shaking hands and making eye contact. So things that it's like, I'm teaching college students this, they need to learn. And I want them to know that before any of you ever see them. Because I want you to get my students and be like, oh my God, they're so prepared, they're awesome. And you have one of mine. So I know he's doing really great. So I think that stuff is important.
Tony, do you have something?
Sure. So you started off the evening and you were talking about high generation and the reliance on technology, et cetera, et cetera. My question to you is, we tend to treat hard skills, technology, AI, and EQ, life skills, et cetera, as polar opposites and at different ends of the continuum. How do you weave them together? We're trying to create the next batch of leaders. How do we weave the learning together so that it's not two opposite ends of the extreme, rather it's things that move in parallel?
It's an outstanding question, too.
I mean, I want to throw up something on that. I believe that there's never the wrong person. He just has the wrong seat on the bus. So if I imagine the bus, there are EQ seats and there are IQ seats. And so I don't know if I come back to John's model of the campfire, of like all the seats have to be filled. And so as an organization to move forward, you got to have that campfire approach of filling the seats around the campfire and engaging everyone together and not putting all the EQs in this office and all the IQs in that office and segregating them. So I think that's how you kind of bring them together. But you got to shift the model of thinking to say, hey, we're all on the bus together, all around the campfire together, we're all create a connection.
Take a situation where you get two people exchanging text back and forth. And at some point the discussion goes from exchange of information to the point where it actually would be advantageous for them to be speaking to each other because of what's lost in the electronic communication. How do we teach people to know when that occurs so that they can integrate the efficiency of texting with, at times, the need for actual interpersonal communication where I can see you and I can interact with you physically?
Yeah, Jeremy and I are probably exactly. I'll give you some examples of people that have done it, okay? It sounds so corny, okay? When you walk into this meeting, your cell phones are going over here. Like, no, so your computers, and we're going to spend 5 minutes looking at each other and talking about what? I don't care. And it's very awkward for the first time, okay? We're going to have lunch together. What are we going to talk about? We're having lunch together. Again, you just start with those small little movements, right? I've had GMs of big multi-million-dollar companies say, If I have to shut your phones off so you never text again for the next day, I will do it. So start talking to one another, or get up and walk across the room. Now, it's very command and control, but we've had a lot of conversations where it's not working anymore. So quit emailing me. Or another big thing, and then I'll shut up, is the GM says, do not copy me on emails. Because it's like tattling. No. You have to handle it as adults. We're working on this. This is why transformational leadership is so important to me, because I've got to help you become okay with who you are so that you can learn how to handle this adult atmosphere which is about interacting and collaboration and EQ and everything else. So go ahead.
I think one thing I would add to it too is, I guess I'm not sure if it's a skill necessarily to be developed as much as it is a cultural expectation, right? I mean, organizations are about how we communicate with each other and share information and those types of things. You know, to me, like from an onboarding perspective, you know, a lot of people, onboarding is transactional HR stuff. Are we compliant? They're going to get paid? All those different types of things. We focus a lot on how do we get them prepared to be successful in the organization, and how do we get them to be prepared to be successful in their specific role. And part of that is, how do we communicate, right? How do you communicate amongst a team? How do you communicate organizationally? I think we've all been in organizations, and I can say personally I've been at fault in this. Our hiring processes and onboarding processes are so antiquated. We hire people for previous results without taking into consideration what the previous circumstances were, right? Just because they were successful on paper doesn't mean they're going to show up and be successful in my organization unless I am replicating those circumstances. So if you have somebody who is incredibly brilliant and on paper passes all the tests, but they cannot effectively communicate with, let's say, the rest of the leadership team, or the rest of their functional team, they're going to struggle, right? And is it something that we can teach them? If it's their innate preference, and it really does come down to democracy, right? What type of culture are you trying to build? We talk about these generational differences. I personally hate it because it's just labeling. I hate labeling things. I know 65-year-olds who are incredibly tech proficient. It has nothing to do with their age or anything else. Every generation that came up had access to more technology than the one before it. So the question is, what type of a culture are you going to foster, and how do you communicate that in the hiring process and reinforce it in onboarding so they actually know to deliver?
I love what you're saying. I work with companies who are typically at the inflection point for scale. And so they have an opinion that what they're doing is working. They just need to get more people doing it well. So they're not really in the business of saying, hey, we want to just encourage you to be any way you want to. They say, we kind of have a platonic ideal here. We know how it should be done well. And we just want everyone to buy into it. So what is that? That's a hiring problem. That's a fit problem. That's a question of, look, this is what our culture does. This is how we do it well. And this is what we want you to conform to. But what we're talking about is, how do we make it so that nobody has to conform? How do we make an organizational model that says, be any way you want to and operate any way you want to, and we'll all morph and adjust because we have these labels around generational dynamics, and we sort of conform to those out of an insecurity. Like, wait a minute. What are we really talking about here? We're basically saying that there are not right ways and wrong ways of doing things, that there are not healthy ways of communicating and not. We're saying anything goes, and we have to find ways to sort of compartmentalize our understanding of rules. I don't believe that. I think that, in fact, in the organizations that are healthy and are thriving, they've just decided, this is the way we want you to do this. And we need to find the people that can do that. And they teach and train the people that are willing and able and capable of doing those things. It's a fit question. It's a suitability for the role type of question. Absolutely. It's not a macro question of how do we deal with millennials? How do we deal with... It actually is a question of how do you deal with this local culture.
Yeah, and I would add to that too. I mean, you know, if you think about it, it's about, do you have a clearly defined value proposition as an employer and to the people that you're providing products or services to? And how is that a unique differentiator in your marketplace, right? There are a lot of really talented, smart people out in the world. Are they the right fit for us? Are they going to help enhance and deliver on our value proposition? If we become this amoeba that is just going to we're going to dilute the impact and the differentiation in the marketplace. And it's not to say that the people that don't work out are good people or incapable. They just didn't fit. Or as a leader, I did a really poor job of defining my value proposition and building an organization that reinforces it.
That's
right.
Yeah. Give you a macro example of this. Disney World, for a Disney company. Okay. My daughter worked for them for a few years. They vet you, and either you buy into their gig or you don't. And if you can't buy into having a magical day, you're not employed. You know, and you can think it's crap, but they'll vet you out very, very quickly, and then they put you in the job.
And I've heard they've done pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, mildly.